We are recording.
All right. Welcome back to the Firehouse podcast. And thank you for everyone who has reached out and supported us for the first episode. Got a lot of good feedback. So thank you to everybody. And you go to volleyhousepodcast.com, fill out the form to ask us questions or send in stories or videos that you'd like us to review. And also give us a follow on all social media platforms at Volleyhouse Podcast. I'm excited for this episode.
So and I'm back on
good.
camera.
Phil's
You
back.
can see me now.
Hopefully the cameras don't shit out on us
Looking
this time.
good.
You charge the batteries this time, Phil?
Everything's charged.
Yeah,
we
they
should be
just-
good to go.
In good shape.
Hopefully they
Can't keep these on though.
they don't overheat. So before we get into anything, go ahead with our first ad, which is Frontline Optics, and let me just pull up there. Yeah, pull those out 'cause these glasses are super nice.
I need a pair so I can start wearing these. Sunshine.
I apologize for last week's technical difficulties.
All right.
Apology accepted for now.
So Frontline Optics, what makes us different? We know these shades are going to get beat up, which is why we offer a no questions asked replacement program to cover your lost or damaged sunglasses. When the time comes to get yours replaced, all you need to do is cover a $12 service fee and we'll ship a brand new pair to your door, no questions asked. Additionally, a portion of all sales is donated to the First Responders Children's Foundation, supporting the loved ones left behind by our brothers and sisters who gave the ultimate sacrifice in service to their communities. All our glasses are polarized and we offer free shipping and returns so you can try them out risk-free. Not enough? We have both Z87 and prescription styles available. Check us out at frontlineoptics.com or Instagram at frontlineoptics. Use discount code VHP15 for 15% off. Frontline Optics.
And these say Z87.
Those are nice.
So that means they're safety glasses. ANSI rated.
You can weld in
Oh,
them.
Which is pretty
there you
nice.
go.
Yeah,
You can
so
weld in them, everybody.
Yeah,
Just kidding.
just kidding.
hey, you never know. You could be on an MBA or whatever, you know, you wear your glasses.
I actually chopped up a jersey barrier. I'd never seen what the inside of a jersey barrier looks like. We had the state donate one to us, so our truck company drill was cut it in half because it was way too big for the district Bobcat to pick up. So we needed to, one, move it, and two, it was a nice drill to do. So I think it was like 16 feet long, reinforced by 3 horizontal pieces of rebar. I think it was 3/4 rebar. I don't think it was an inch. So we cut it. We went through a diamond blade, a mason blade. We cooked one metal blade. It's all on a partner saw. And then what we ended up doing was we threw an airbag underneath it.
Lift it
did
up.
like a seesaw.
Oh, to
and
crack
then
it?
It cracked it.
Nice.
We exposed the rest of it in the middle. And then we took an oxyacetylene torch, cut the bottom.
Cut the rebar.
Rebar.
Nice.
Nice drill. I like drills that you get at it, like loud noise, freaking. There's nothing like showing up to drill and doing driver training.
Just wear some
That's
hearing
never
protection
fun.
while you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my ears were ringing.
Yeah.
They were ringing. Yeah. Had my safety glasses on. but not
Saws
my-
and sirens, baby.
Yeah.
So,
What? What'd you say?
yeah, exactly.
Can't hear.
Can't hear. So, we have a segment that we're going to try out here.
Oh boy, here we go.
All right, it's called Suspended or Not. So I have a few
I like it.
scenarios. I got a few scenarios here for you.
Hold on. Do I like the person or not?
I'm not
One of those guys. I'm the firefighter A and firefighter B. Don't give me any names.
Yeah, no, we're no
Let's go
names
with that.
here. I'm not going to say that I was involved with any of these, but I do know
Which means you were.
these are actual things that happened. So I want to hear from your perspective as a
Oh,
chief.
now we're
If
gonna.
you got this call or, something like that, suspended or not. So we'll go with the first one.
This is strictly
Shot.
opinion.
Yeah, your opinion.
Hey, this isn't. We're not making fun of anybody here,
No,
right?
no.
It's just for jokes.
And it's gonna and quick disclaimer, don't try any of this stuff at your firehouse.
I love it.
Okay. So basically, this segment will break down Firehouse pranks and shenanigans
It was you,
and
Phil.
ask Kevin from a Chiefs perspective
Boy.
if it's worthy of suspension or not. And now, the way these are written, they're written like I'm saying that I did it, but they're not. I just wrote them like that just to write them like that.
If anybody knows for real if Tyler did any of these, please let me know. Just hit me up.
I'm sure you're going to get a couple calls. All right, so first one. While bored at the firehouse one night, we blew up a 4-inch mortar, like the firework, behind the firehouse. It was so loud that it prompted multiple calls for an explosion and set off the seismic alarm at the bank next door, which the police responded to.
Oh my
The fire department, however, was never activated for it. Suspended or not?
You know who did it?
I know who did it.
Oh my God. I always like progressive discipline. You know, little here, little there, you know, kind of talk to them first, then maybe paper, then maybe a suspension. This one may be on the suspension end, being that it caused so many problems. Oh my God. Fireworks are illegal. You know, we were talking about this a little last time too. You know, I hate to keep saying we talked about this, but, you know, we touch on a lot of different subjects. And if you're doing something and it's on the front page of the newspaper and it looks really bad for the department, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
And I'm not, listen, I'm not going to say I haven't done stupid things. And fireworks may have been involved many, many, many years ago with myself, because the cops used to drop them off to us at the firehouse. But
Really?
Yeah.
Wish they still did that.
yeah, no, you're talking a long time ago.
So we're going suspension with this one.
You could prove the person did it. Was it on camera? Like
District cameras got it.
I
They're
don't.
in the back. They
I
saw
don't-
them do it.
I don't think so. These people never got in trouble for it. Chief's office never heard about it.
They didn't do it. Well, then they didn't know anything,
But
so there's no suspension there.
But if you got a call about
I mean,
it,
listen, if you got a call, it's documented that the people did wrong. You know, I'd love to say it's just a warning. I would love to just say it's a warning. But when you're sending off bank alarms and everything else, it could cause major turmoil. But I like to always give people benefit of the doubt if I can.
okay. And now, judging by your just how you're laughing about that, you would say it was funny though.
Well, I mean,
That's
It-
you were laughing.
everything is funny in a way. You know, I mean, we got.
Here's number 2.
But here's the thing: like, you could have caused some serious damage. Somebody could have got hurt. You know,
Sure.
and fireworks are illegal in New York. And when we look at it, you know, and like, we're always connected to our departments, right? You know, you wear a T-shirt or people know you're from that department. I mean, like, even doing this, right? I was looking at my computer and social media policy, you know, and you never want to bring discredit to your department. And
course.
that's bringing discredit to your department. Doing stupid things. And I'm not saying, listen, I'm guilty. I've done some stupid stuff. I was suspended for 50-something days years ago. They wanted to throw me out of the department, and I'm glad they didn't, because, you know, I learned from my lesson. But as a joke, coming back from a drill team event, we decided to grab some fire district signs on the way back.
From neighboring departments.
East End departments, and worked our way back. And you listen, it was a stupid thing. It was a childish thing, you know, and we got caught and we got in trouble for it. And what do? We went back on our own time. We put the signs back up. And that's the way it used to be in the day. Like, if you did something stupid, you just fixed it.
Right.
You know, whether it was a water fight or something stupid or a broken pitcher in the firehouse, you broke something, you fixed it. You paid for it out of your own pocket, and you fixed it. And most times people did not mind that, as long as you took care of the problem. And we went back, put these signs up, and there was a commission that was hot and heavy, wanted me out of the department. And, you know, I'm glad that I didn't get thrown out of the department, because it was a childish thing. I was a young kid. What do I know?
We're glad too, because now you can.
Yeah, you know, like, so you apologize, you write letters, and, you know, you do whatever you can to try to make it better. But it's a childish thing. But same thing, like, you know, when we're posting stuff, I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole here, but you're posting stuff, like, you're a chief of your fire department, and you're posting yourself blowing off fireworks, or, you know, blowing up chipmunks in your backyard.
That's not cool.
It's not cool because, you
I
know,
don't like
it's still coming back to you. Every other post is you're a fire chief, and then you're doing something, you know, and I'm not saying, listen, it is what it is. You did it, whatever, but don't post it.
Of course.
Don't bring it back to you or the department.
All right, so scenario number 2. We saran wrapped a toilet bowl in the firehouse, which led to one of the members using it and crapping on himself.
Oh, boy.
Suspended or not?
I would say no suspension.
No suspension.
That is just disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Imagine
It's
sitting
funny.
on the toilet and experiencing that.
You know, I mean, unless you're singling somebody out and doing something, you know, after, you know, continually after a person where it's kind of harassment, I would say, it's a childish thing. I've seen people do it before. You know, I would probably go with like a warning or a letter and don't do it again kind of thing. But you know.
And if it was a probie, what about a probie?
If a
probie
Listen,
did
no hazing. I you know.
No, a probie did the saran wrap job.
Oh, probie did it. God.
Was it?
So I don't know how your departments work, but you know, a lot of departments, probies can be dismissed for any reason.
Oh yeah,
You know, so you know, I mean, that's, you know,
That's
I would
the
say
whole
as a probie,
probation
you really
attitude.
shouldn't be doing something like that.
This story, from what I understand, the way the toilet bowls were, like, you know, I guess it was the type of toilet bowl. It was saran wrapped, so like I guess if you sit on it,
You didn't feel it
you didn't feel the saran wrap hit your ass
until you went.
until you
God.
went.
Oh, that's gross.
Yeah.
That's gross.
It'd be like a shit trampoline.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to say, I was in a firehouse once and went to the urinal. You know, you're doing your thing, and you know, a lot of times before you finish, you hit the control arm.
Courtesy, a courtesy
You
flush.
know, just well, yeah, sort of. And what I didn't know was they were trying to play a joke on somebody else in the firehouse, and they disconnected the screw cap. So when I hit the flush, the water just hit me and ran down all over. I was soaking wet, head to toe,
man.
and I heard the guys screaming in the other room. They're like, "Oh no, that wasn't meant for you. I'm sorry." You know, like.
You
But
didn't
it
report
happens.
them, though.
No, change your clothes and move on. You know.
Scenario number 3.
You
This
hit me
one-
hard today.
This is great.
I
I like this.
I think we should ask the captain. You know, he's a current captain. I'm
Well,
just
go-
an
yeah,
ex-chief.
go-
Well,
any
yeah, this
direction.
this is the last one. This one isn't even all that bad. We kept writing annoying messages on the whiteboard after we were told to cut it out. And
Oh, shame on you.
I don't
Well,
know if
It was us.
yeah. So what happened was we were writing.
So you can answer this one?
Yeah, we
go to Ken.
we were writing like just nonsense on the board just because we knew it would drive a few people nuts. And then they brought it up at a department meeting, I think. So the next night we wrote on the whiteboard something stupid. I don't remember what it was, but we put the mannequin with the gear on in a chair with the marker wedged in its hand and just the arms sticking up,
Nice. I like that. That's pretty fun.
and they freaked out.
Of course they did.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Was this when you were with me? When we
Yeah.
were still together?
Yep.
So you two are
We-
troublemakers, I see.
We were fun havers.
Yeah,
we
we
were
were
troublemaking.
It's boredom at the firehouse. You know, luckily there's guys there. I mean, we had the other one. One of the cool things we did was we went underneath the crawl space of the firehouse in our gear with. We did like a confined space type drill, and we found old Budweiser cans down there. We grabbed. They had the teardrop.
Yeah, the pull tabs, you pull
Yeah.
them off.
So we
That's
brought-
old school,
yeah,
bro.
we brought it up to our company room. One of
That's
the
way
guys-
before you guys were born.
Yeah, so one of the guys
I don't
walks
even
in. He
know
goes,
what you're
"Holy
talking
shit, where did this
The
thing
pop
come
top.
from?"
The pop tops
Yeah,
used to
they
come
look-
off the can.
They look like
And you-
teardrops. Almost.
It's
But
actually in a Jimmy Buffett song. You know,
I've
stepped
seen
on a
those-
pop top.
I've seen those real old school cans where there's like a tab on the side. You pull it out. It's like a key, and it's like you crank.
Oh,
it
the
around.
crank can opener
Oh,
like
yeah.
sardine cans.
Yeah, that's like
I
some
like
old,
that.
like
Yeah.
probably World
so
War
we
shit.
brought this thing up to the company room, and one of the older guys walks in. He goes, "Holy shit, where'd this thing come from?" And we're like, "Oh, we were in the crawl space, the firehouse.
Was
We
it a
found He
Schaefer
goes-
can?
he
Was it
goes,
old school Schaefer?
No, it was old Budweiser."
Oh,
And he
oh.
goes, "No shit." He goes, "When we were younger, before because they weren't allowed to drink
Right.
So they went down into
Down
the
and
basement.
hid and drank
They
them.
would drink them and throw them
Gotcha.
into the crawl space.
Yeah.
No one's been down there since. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's pretty wild.
yeah. So that was I guess one of like the cooler things we did. But there's these stories that are on here. We could go for days
Yeah.
with those. What do you think?
See, here's the thing with suspensions, and obviously there has to be discipline. We talk. I'm going to keep doing this. I don't want to keep doing this.
As long as you don't try to say incentivize again.
Yeah, that was terrible. I don't want to say we, but people tend to go towards suspension a lot. And every time we suspend somebody, what do? We lose another responder. And there has to be some sort of discipline. There has to be rules. There has to be quotas, obviously. We want to keep people, and we want people to respond, and we don't want to turn them off either. And there has to be a little bit of fun. And I'm not saying, we all have a little fun. We all joke around. We were joking around with one of the guys last night during our duty crew. And it's fun. It's fun in games. But, you got to get to a point that you don't want to cross a line where now we're getting into harassment or, problems where it could really be a detrimental or a liability issue. So you can have fun. You can do things. But a lot of people just tend to go, let's suspend the guy. Then you have the other side. Well, I know this guy. He's friendly. He's an active responder. We shouldn't suspend him. And it might be something outrageous that they deserve a suspension. So, it's got to be fair across the board. Years ago, I remember somebody hit a garage door with the rig. And they ripped it off, cost some money. They suspended the person. Okay, maybe it's necessary for a suspension. A couple of years later, same exact thing happens. And they go, yeah, we're not going to suspend him. And I go, wait a minute. You suspended the other person for this. And now you're going to, well, he's active. He's around all the time. We need him as a responder.
Why'd they suspend the guy that backed into the...
Exactly.
Like that?
It wasn't, I don't think it was actual backing, but I think it
know,
hit the top. With the top of the rig hit the door. But whatever the deal is, it doesn't matter. I mean, we don't want to strike fixed objects anytime.
Of course.
And, I've done it. It's happened, but it's got to be fair. If you're going to do one thing for one person, you have to do the same thing for somebody else.
Absolutely.
So we have to be very cautious with that stuff.
Right.
But we don't want to lose responders. Some people are like, yeah, give me a suspension. I'll take a vacation for 2 weeks. I need to relax. Is that really proving anything or giving that person real discipline if they want that vacation?
You know what? I always thought a good suspension, like I never agreed with like, okay, do something stupid, like petty, whatever it is, 30 days, kick rocks, like, you're just gone for 30 days. I think it'd be more of a suspension to say, okay, so say you're a 5-year guy, 10-year guy, whether I'm going to say not an officer, and you do something stupid and it's punishable by 30, 60 days, whatever it may be. Wouldn't it be, okay, so I'm telling you, okay, you can't come to the firehouse, you can't hang out, you can't go to calls, all
Correct.
these things. You lost a responder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the social aspect of it, whatever. I think a worse punishment would be, okay, for the next 3 months, you're running department drill every week. You need to come up with a plan. It has to be a different drill every time.
Yeah, but you don't want a bogus drill either. That's another thing. When we force people into training or to give you drills and they're not an instructor or they really are not into it, they're going to give you a bad drill.
That's fair.
Like we've done this even with my own department where companies are responsible to give department trainings. Well, these are people that may not be instructors.
Right.
They may not know how to give a good drill. I mean, we need to teach them to be a good instructor. Or it takes time to learn to be a good instructor. But when you force people to a fire academy and you say, you're stuck there for 30 days or 90 days and to do drills and training, and they're not into it, you're going to get a crap drill. So we don't want to do that either. Now, I mean, we've tried in the past social probation.
Yeah,
you could still respond, but as soon as the alarm's over, you must leave. You can't hang out in the company room. You can't go to the installation dinner. You can't go to the parties and stuff like that. And that may or may not hurt people either. Some people it doesn't. Some people don't care and, okay, fine. I'm not going to come down. But there's got to be some sort of discipline. It's got to be proper for the situation. Usually first time, you give personal warning. Second time, a piece of paper or something. Listen, the next time you're getting suspended.
Right.
Unless it's out of hand where, there's serious damage, somebody's getting hurt, stuff like that, then, maybe it deserves a suspension. But I think we jumped to suspension very quickly. And, when I was a commissioner and on the board, they're like, oh, this person, I don't want to hear any names.
Mm-hmm.
I want it firefighter A, firefighter B, firefighter C, and give me the information, and then let's talk about it. Not because I don't want, oh, well, he's my buddy, he's my friend, and we do this sometimes, and I don't really like it.
Yeah, it could be biased. Yeah.
It's very biased.
A couple of times as an officer, one of my guys would mess up, and not depending on my relationship with them, but actually anybody in my company did something stupid, first thing would be me getting a call from the chief, and I would just say, hit me.
Right.
I'll take the blame, because I think that shows a different, it's the word I'm looking for. Like, when you have somebody that does something
as
stupid,
an officer, or?
No, like, I was an officer.
You were an officer. Right.
And
so
one of my guys did something stupid. Chief calls me, hey, I heard about what happened. Who was it? I'm not too sure, Chief. If you're going to hit somebody, it's from my company, I'll take the blame for it, because then I can go back to that
you're
one
the
member.
supervisor.
Right, but even if I wasn't there,
right,
I can go back to that one member and tell them, hey, man, I took a hit for you. So cut the shit, if it's something serious.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that always, any of those stories that you hear about an officer, especially taking the blame for something one of their members did, it helps the bond, and it gives you more respect.
It does to a certain extent, and even some departments, like you're the captain of a company, even in New York City, the captain might not even be there, and something happens with his company or in the firehouse, he's responsible still, just like chiefs. So you look at this incident down in Palm Beach County, Florida, the ladder getting hit by the train, which, terrible. I'm not going to get into the semantics of it. It should never happen, but it happened. And who knows what the repercussions will be down the line, if people will be able to return to work, stuff like that, But, injuries and stuff like that, you don't want to see anybody get hurt. But it happened. So they suspended 4 people for it. And they suspended, the officer, the chauffeur, I believe, the chief, the battalion chief, and the assistant chief, or something like that. Because overall, is there a culture problem? We talk a lot about culture, but is it a culture problem? Like, are they doing things because of that? But they're taking the hit just because they're the supervisor. There could be nothing wrong with that department, that company. It could just be somebody slipped up, somebody made a mistake, or whatever. But they all got suspended right now with pay until the investigation's over. And sometimes that has to happen. I see some departments out there that, you have any accident with an apparatus, you're automatically suspended. Some for 15 days, some from driving, usually, not from the department. From driving, 15 days, 30 days. And some people say, well, that's kind of an admission of guilt if you're automatically suspending them. I don't know. I could go either way. I don't personally believe somebody should be suspended immediately just because they're driving a rig and something happens.
I honestly thought that was like an insurance thing.
It's not. So, that's really up to the individual department. And my department used to be like that, where it was automatic. So, and I'll give you an exact scenario. Driving our tower ladder, coming back from a run, I'm in the right lane to get onto the highway, and, it's very tight. It's 2 lanes. One's a turn lane, one's a straight and a turn. And I'm in that right lane. I'm, pretty close to the curb, but not on it. And I thought, I had it. So I'm just driving straight, and I ripped 2 of the outer tires along the curb line of our ladder truck.
Deflated them,
ripped them right open. It's sidewall rip. So we look at it, and the storm drain that the town had was actually shifted, and it was sticking out from the curb. Like, there's almost impossible for me to see that that's sticking out 4 or 5 inches. I knew I cleared the curb, and all I did was drive straight, and I ripped both tires out. So I pull the rig over, we call it in, damaged tires. Chief comes, looks at it. He goes, all right, you're automatically suspended 15 days. And I'm like, for what? I didn't do anything wrong. He goes, well, you damaged the rig, 2 tires. That's a lot of money. and this is going back many years, but I'm still like, why am I suspended for something that obviously there's no way I could, I couldn't see it. I mean, maybe I could have seen a little better, but it was dark. It was rusty. You could barely see it on the roadway. It's obviously an issue with the town of Brookhaven or, whoever at that intersection. And it's my fault. So now, they put 2 new tires on. I can't drive the rig back to the firehouse. They have somebody else drive. Yeah, exactly. And I'm suspended 15 days from driving, and I'm a steady chauffeur. I was like, this is ridiculous. So, now the chief can make an immediate decision on scene. We let the chief go there, do a quick examination of what happened, and, he can put you back to driving right away. But there's still departments out there, automatic 15 days, automatic 30 days.
Yeah.
And it might not even be your fault.
Yeah, that's so strange to me because anything can happen, and even like first off, driving in general, the fire truck, it's
dangerous,
a big rig,
it's
super dangerous, and people still to this day absolutely panic when a fire truck is coming.
Drivers,
I had a guy.
yeah.
I was clearly in a right turning lane, and the traffic light was red. Cars backed up. I'm going down the turning lane. Some idiot turns into the turning lane that and it's, it's a fire truck, a lot of weight. It's not stopping very easily. And, I just leaned on the horn. But, yeah, like if I wound up slamming into that guy, am I going to get suspended, 15, 30 days, whatever it is, from driving because this moron pulled out in front of me?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a case-by-case basis in a lot of this. If the chief can go there and make a quick determination of, what actually happened, we're looking at the cause. What caused this incident? I got hit a few years ago with one of our newer engines. I made a left-hand turn in front of traffic, and you're supposed to, you drive with due regard.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be given the right of way and all that stuff. And I came up to the intersection. The car stopped in the right lane. The left lane was still open, and the car was way back. And I'm like, oh, they see me. They got, no problem. And I go to make the turn, and as I'm making the turn, I'm looking. I'm like, holy cow, this person's not stopping. They don't see us. And the woman drove right into the rig. The back end right compartment she hit. And, the siren's on, the light's on, everything. We pull over. And I go running over to make sure she's okay. And, the airbags are all off, and she's like, what happened? I go, you just hit a fire truck. And she goes, what? Like, she didn't even know, and finally she's just like, I didn't even see you. Like, she never saw us and drove right into the fire truck. And she said to the cop, when the cop got there, she goes, it's my fault. It's 100%. I wasn't paying attention. So I don't know if she was looking at her phone, looking at the radio. These cars nowadays, they're so sealed up, they don't even hear the siren. She's like, I didn't hear your siren. Your siren's not on. And I go, you could still hear it winding down as she gets out of the car. And she's like, oh, geez. Like, the siren was on.
I don't understand that. Like, even operating on the expressway, right? Major highway. And I think this happened to Dix Hills Fire Department maybe last year. They're operating at a scene. I think it was an MVA. And they had their trucks positioned.
Blocking the road?
Yeah, blocking the road. And someone just slammed into the back of one of their rigs.
Yeah.
And it's like, we talk about that, the possibility of that happening. But, like, thank God they position their rigs properly, to
You got to make a
further
protection
damage.
area. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's just amazing to me that people, when you're driving on the road, you see a million flashing lights, and these people are like moths to a flame. They just go flying right into it. I don't
I think
understand.
it's
You don't know if they're
our
on-
awareness.
Well-
I can see a fire truck in my rearview mirror, 3 lanes over, 500 feet behind me. I think it might have to do with awareness. Like, I don't know. I'm always paying attention. Like, especially if I could even see police cars and ambulances and fire trucks. When I see those lights on top, like,
Start
it's
slowing
something.
down.
It's something. Yeah. Pull over
pull
when the lights
over.
are
Yeah.
off.
Well,
But
I
it's
mean,
like I always know. Like, I feel like I always know. Some people just.
but we're more aware of it, obviously. People don't think of the fire department.
Yeah,
if you really think about it, how many people show up to your Board of Fire Commissioners meetings from the public?
No.
Barely any. Every once in a while, if somebody's got something to say, or How
If they
many
even know
people
that you can?
How many people show up for the budget hearings? Nobody. Sometimes one. You know, they don't concern themselves. And then even the fire commission elections, it's usually people that you know that you get to come down and vote for you.
Right.
But the general public doesn't come out. And obviously it's not during the regular election cycle. It's an odd day and everything else. And people have said, why isn't it the same day as normal elections in November? And I can understand that.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. But because the way the state is worded, you know, and I'm going to say this, I say this all the time, you know, New York State gave fire commissioners way too much power. I'll say it. I was a commissioner. I was a chief. I said it when I was a fireman. I said it when I was a chief. I'll say it when I was a commissioner. I'm not a commissioner. New York State gave overwhelming power to fire districts. And, you know, it's good and bad. Some people take that power and it's like a power trip. And other people do it for the right reasons. There are people that run for election because they couldn't get elected as chief, or they couldn't get here, or they couldn't get there. You have to do this stuff for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about it. I vote for my school district budget, but I don't vote for my fire district taxes in their budget. The commissioners can, with 3 votes, override the tax cap. You can't do that in a school district. You can't do that anywhere else, but fire districts can.
That's interesting.
That is
I don't
interesting.
even. Yeah, I don't know anything about.
And I think it's something, you know, along the lines of over time, they just didn't want to deal with fire districts or whatever. You know, and you look at the taxes on Long Island, we have all these special districts, and it's a lot of money. You know, you look at the school districts. How many superintendents do we have on Long Island for schools? And everybody likes their own entity, and everybody likes doing their own thing. Authority having jurisdiction, that's what the fire districts are. That's what all these little districts are. But you go to most places in the country, the school district is a huge school district, and there's one superintendent. And here we're paying all these people. We have all these special water districts. We have all these fire districts.
The water
know?
district thing makes me laugh because it's like you had water, and then someone was just like, we want our own water district. Like, what the hell is that about?
You know,
Like,
and
who comes up with
Get
that
that
idea?
fluoride water away from
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
you know, and they want all these districts and entities to start working together, and you know, you get some benefits by working with people. You know, we bought our rigs off a consortium. You know, so it's already out there, so it's easier to buy things. But you know, we have to be very cautious in how we do things. But I really believe that fire districts just have a lot of power, more
That's
than what
interesting
they
to hear. I don't know, and I'm sure you could probably look up the way like the actual laws and such that commissioners have, and I've just never looked into it. But that's very insightful.
All right, multi-purpose webbing. You want to open it up, Kev?
If you wish.
Multi-purpose
Again?
webbing is a firefighter owned business dedicated to creating products that facilitate fireground efficiency. The MPW personal carry is a webbing system designed for simpler firefighting and civilian removal. The MPW can be separated to allow for search, haul, and utility function. The rated system comes complete with dual action, palm activated carabiner, mil-spec webbing, and carry case. Our glove clamp is by far the best solution for out-of-pocket glove carry. Never lose a glove again. Go to mpwebbing.com, use code VHP15 for 15% off site-wide. Multi-purpose webbing. And that glove clamp is legit.
That thing is strong.
So that rope is 20 feet.
It's 22 feet.
So because I was looking at drill this weekend, I think I have maybe 15 foot of just like thin rope. It's not even search rope. And I have a daisy chain in my pocket, and it takes up almost my whole bunker pant pocket. That bag, let me see that bag.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Figure fully packed. Yeah, this is probably the same. It's actually smaller than the daisy chain of rope that I have in my pocket, and that's got a nice carabiner on it.
Yeah, it's got multiple uses. You know,
This is designed to have the bag in your pocket or just to have the rope?
You can hang it on your gear. You can put it in your
Yeah,
pocket,
hang it.
whatever you
Yeah.
want. But it's self-deploy. It's got a magnetic clip there with the hook in it, so easy
that's
deployment.
excellent. I love the use of magnets on like
Oh, yeah,
material
yeah.
things. I have a jacket and all the clips are magnets. Amazing. This is great.
Yeah.
No, yeah, because I was thinking about this weekend side by side with my
That would definitely fit in the bunker
yeah,
pant
yeah,
pocket
for
too.
sure. Good stuff.
It's got some good uses. I was looking at some of the videos online that they have, and he was showing even just lifting a saw to the roof. I mean, I carry a small piece of thin rope in my pocket that I use just for utility stuff, and then I carry an 11-foot piece of webbing that's tied with a water knot that I can use for a lot of different things. But this is a good option too. Having 22 feet of webbing.
Oh yeah.
It's, I wouldn't say it's a go-to every single time, but it's good to have options. You should always have options available to you. A lot of people are like, oh, every time I'm going to use a piece of webbing. That's not always going to be the case, but there are times where you do need it. And this is a nice piece of webbing because 1-inch tubular, it's got a clip at the end, dual action, which is nice. So you can hook it onto things or wrap it around or girth it or tie it back to itself, whatever you need to do. You could use it as a drag device.
Nice, sleek carabiner too.
Yeah, it's very easy. The action of this thing is pretty good.
I like that has like that safety lock, like the bottom of the carabiner.
Yeah, well, it's dual. That's dual action.
Yeah, dual
So
action,
you have to push in one to get the other. So this way, if you just rub against something, it's not going to open up.
Yeah.
Click, hit on or grab something.
Mm-hmm.
So once it's locked on, like even if you hook this to a firefighter and you were dragging them, it's going to stay locked. It's not going to come off.
Right.
Which is nice.
All right, so
you gotta use both hands.
mpwebbing.com. Use code VHP15
I like it.
for 15% off. All right, Kev, this one's for you.
Uh-oh, here we go.
Job of the week, baby.
Job of the week.
All right, Kev
Wasn't
doing
much of
it
a job.
first due.
I wasn't
first due truck. You weren't first due?
I don't think we were first due. I'm not sure. I mean, I know Selden was there as well. I don't know if they
I saw somebody.
Somebody posted that we were first due truck. I don't know if that's.
Well, did you get on scene? No one else was there yet?
Well, like I said, I gave a shout out to Terryville in the last podcast.
All right, make it two
but
times. These guys are
they're engine 12. They're station 2 over there. They turn out, and they were first due, so they stretch the line. But obviously we still had a little snow and ice conditions on the roads and stuff, so had to take it a little easy getting there. But it's not too far. But we did get there, and a couple of our guys took a portable ladder around the rear. It was the chauffeur of our ladder. I tried to get into position. It turned out that the house was set back. It was a pretty big house. So
long stretch.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad because they were parked right out front. Their engine 12 was right out front. But they stretched straight in. So as I'm coming up to the front of the house, it's a big house. It looks really nice. I was like, this is pretty cool. But when we were on the way there, they were talking about, Collier's Mansion kind of conditions and stuff like that. So I walked up towards the front, and then I saw the line going around the side, and I was like, wow, that's weird. But it turns out the house was split up into apartments. So you had to go up an outside wooden staircase to the second floor on the 2 side, or for guys around the country, that's the B side. We've got to talk A, B, C, D, so people understand. But here it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So to the 2 side, up the stairs, they had a line in there, kitchen fire. So I went around the back. 2 of our guys were bringing a portable ladder. There was a fence. They had to go all the way around to the other side where the fire was. And I popped in the back door to the first floor, and I'm like, let me take a look at this place. And came around the front, and then it's half under construction. There's like a new staircase going up. It was really weird. Shot up the stairs and around. Then there's another staircase going to like a 3rd floor that doesn't even exist right now. And then there's a bedroom, and there's a guy walking around inside there. So I'm like, what the heck's going on? So one of the guys with us, Randy's like, who are you? And he's like, I live here. And he's like, you got to get out of here. So he left, and then there was a door, but it was separated. You couldn't go into that back apartment. It was really weird. So we went back downstairs. What I didn't mention, when I went in to go in the back door, I opened the door. It only opened up, probably about 1.5 feet. And there was a car hood there. And it wasn't going into the house yet. There was another set of stairs that went up to the rear door into the house. It was like an alcove that they built off the back of the house. This house was a mess.
Seems like it was like very partitioned.
I felt like I was back in Queens, to tell you the truth. It was.
Was this? So I'm looking on the Firewire app right now. I got Magnolia Drive, or was it Bicycle
Path?
Bicycle Path.
Yeah. It's like 430 Bicycle Path.
430 Bicycle Path, Terryville. So what we see is kitchen fire in a private dwelling, EMS for 1 patient. So we got Terryville. Selden was your writ.
Yep.
Talk It Louder 1, first two truck.
First two truck, I guess so. I don't know.
Shout out to those boys.
Well, we had a duty crew, so we were talking last podcast about duty crews. So we started this trucking Monday. We do 6 to 10 p.m. So we had six of us there. We went out for a call, pretty early on. It was car into the water. We didn't get there. The chief turned us around, and then we went back, had our dinner, and next thing you know, we're getting a call. Actually, we all saw it on our phones. You get the pulse point,
Yeah.
and
Pulse point,
everything
double
else. I get the county stuff, so I'm like looking at them like echo alarm for fire. I'm like, I call our dispatch. I'm like, call Terryville, tell them we have a full crew in house if they want us. And they didn't start us out, but as soon as they gave the work and fire, we're the truck to go to Terryville. So we got off our engine, we moved over to the truck. We started out before we even got the alarm, just got on the road.
So that's two jobs they had in the past 2 days, or was one
I
of
just
them?
saw the
Setauket?
Magnolia. The date.
Magnolia, I think, was Selden.
Let's see.
I think that was Selden, but I'm not positive.
So Bicycle Path. The date was the 6th. What's today? 7th.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of fires around the island. I think was it Valley Stream today?
Valley Stream today, yeah.
Tapped in with one.
Yep.
I think you had Brentwood today too, and
Deer Park had
Deer
one.
Park.
yeah,
Deer
Magnolia-
Park.
Shout out those
Magnolia and
boys.
Selden. That was December 27th.
And somebody else. There was somebody else. What the heck was the other one? There was another one today too. South Shore, maybe.
I'm trying to think.
Check the feed. I'm checking the feed.
Check the feed on Firewire.
Lakeland had one too.
Oh yeah, Lakeland.
Lakeland today, yeah.
Lakeland. That was
Wildwood Road today,
Yep.
and then Sound Beach had one yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So there's been a few fires around. I mean, the colder weather, people are starting to use space heaters, the oil burners, the fireplaces. Sound Beach was a fireplace that went into the wall. So, there are some fires. This is a time where things start to kick it up, But just getting back to where I was, talking about the duty crews, we had a crew in-house. We had 6 firefighters ready to go, and we were literally out the door, not responding. We didn't have lights and sirens on, but we went
Fire
out
patrol.
We went out the door. As soon as they gave the work and fire, we got on the ladder truck and we started getting on the road. So, talking about how long it takes just to go in your own district. Like I said, I have a big district. We're now going to a neighboring district, and as a chief officer, even when you have automatic aid or mutual aid or anything else, you always have that reflex time. You're thinking, you have to think 3 or 4 steps ahead when you're the chief, and nowadays with all automatic aid, mutual aid, and response plans that we have, which is great, we know people are coming, but how long is it going to take for that next unit to get there if you're going further and further out of your district?
Right.
So if you're the chief and you're saying, I think I might need units, you need units. Start calling for them now, because it might take them 5-10 minutes to get to the firehouse, then maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes to get across their district to your district. You're looking at at least a 20-minute response before somebody comes. So if you think you might need somebody, start calling them now. I'd rather turn them away.
Right.
Or start them out to at least your firehouse. Just get them on the road. But luckily, like I said, we were in-house. We didn't have to respond from home. We had our gear ready to go. All we had to do was switch from one engine to the ladder and out the door. We're gone.
There you go.
What'd you guys have to eat?
Actually, Randy made a nice little meal. We had some spaghetti and chicken, so with a little broccoli, but healthy. We're trying
All right, nice
to
and
watch our
healthy.
weight,
Yeah.
So pretty good. But Randy could cook.
That'll be an episode in itself.
Cooking?
Maybe get somebody on here that
Chef?
I mean, some people in the firehouse can cook.
Oh, absolutely.
Truck Nuts Catering.
Yeah, Truck Nuts Cater. I totally forgot about that.
That was
Yeah, but-
a couple guys in my truck company. It was Truck Nuts Catering, 2 guys, and they had these bibs, and guys would be like,
I
"Oh,
love
let me
it.
get one of those bibs," and they were like, "No, no one's wearing these bibs except for us."
My company has
They just got a fire wire. See?
Oh yeah,
Queens
Yeah.
1075.
Queens loading up.
Fire in a rear
Shout
setback.
out to Queens
Yeah, you know what
boys.
sucks? I mean, it doesn't suck, but on my feed, I have every single state,
So do
every
I.
country, everything.
I
just
kept
'cause-
it local.
Dude, I got
Maybe
you
for a
know,
little bit of quality
who's
assurance.
who was checking in today? United Kingdom,
Yeah, I saw
England.
United Kingdom.
Nice.
England.
Yeah.
They've been getting pounded with storms.
Yeah.
Firewire been showing up.
Yeah. I know that's a lot of. I mean, this is the Volley House podcast, but check for those who.
Well,
buff-
there's a lot
buff-
of
buff in the UK.
volunteer departments that pop up on that.
It comes
app,
up.
too.
You know, we
Yeah.
got some of the Long Island ones come up.
Yeah. Do you know how does it work? Is there anything in Europe, or is volunteer firefighting a United States thing? Does it exist outside of the United States? I don't have the slightest clue.
I'd assume it's everywhere. I mean,
Right.
like I said, we were talking about Canada the other day. Canada, 100% volunteer. in
Yeah,
some spots.
Canada,
So
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
you know, there's I'm sure there's volunteers
The
across the
51st
country.
state.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
gotta ask our admin from England
Yeah.
and see if there's volunteer
Yeah.
brigades.
Because he's always posting it's just the London Fire Brigade, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but he posts everywhere. It's not
Yeah.
just London. I haven't seen a London job in there in a while. Or
United Kingdom, he posts a lot of.
yeah, but he'll put the whatever town or area. I don't know how England's broken up, but
Yeah.
he puts those towns in there. But yeah, a lot of stuff that pops up in there.
Yeah. Download the Firewire.
Um,
I'm out of water.
next topic, drill of the week. So we
Drill
just
of the
mentioned this. Just mentioned this before. Last night, my company did SCBA dodgeball, which a lot of people shit on, but it actually is a good drill because it's all about breathing technique.
Yeah.
With the
Operating. We used to do basketball and deck hockey.
yeah,
We've done that a couple times just as, a confidence builder, for the SCBA and wearing your gear.
Yeah, so last night we timed.
I like the dodgeball, but I thought dodgeball was out now. You can't do that anymore.
Well, so
because you penalize the slow
That's
people.
only
Yeah.
that's only public school.
my
Oh,
yeah,
it's only public school.
my lieutenant yesterday.
So how many times do you get hit, Tyler? That's what I want to know.
I catch them all. I don't have time to get hit by dodgeballs. I catch them all, get everyone out. So he goes. We're walking from the rec room to the bay. We pull the trucks out, and we're doing. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna do dodgeball." He's like, "You're gonna laugh when you see these dodgeballs." So I walk in and I'm looking. I'm like, "Where are they?" And he's like, "They're right on like the divider, like between like the two trucks. They're the size of baseballs."
Oh, they were little?
Yeah, they were. I'm like, "Where the fuck did you get these things?" He's like, "I went to Dick's."
Were you
He's
wearing
like, "That's all
gloves
they
too,
had."
or no
yeah,
gloves?
I had gloves. We were
Oof.
completely hood on, mask on air, and
Where'd
That
you
would've
guys-
been fun
where'd you play?
holding
You
a
pull
real-
the trucks out and you play in the back.
yeah, pulled it in the. But that was the problem. Is the balls were so small and they had some weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when we were winging them at each other, and like a lot of time they were going under the truck. So my lieutenants running around with the pike pole, trying to go under the trucks to hit the balls out. But it was good for the newer guys to understand, that haven't been, because I guess dodgeball in a sense is a little bit stressful. You want to make sure you don't get hit by a ball,
Right.
Or you're trying to catch a ball. Obviously, it's really hard when you have baseball-sized dodgeballs, but it gave them that understanding of, hey, what's your working time? So my lieutenant, he had us timed the whole time. You get hit, do a push-up, and then there was he pulled out this other bigger ball, and if you hit that, well, then you were going to sit out,
Mm-hmm.
and he's got you on the time to see, all right, now control your breathing. And what we explained was anytime you can within a fire, obviously there's a lot going on, a lot of stress on you, the adrenaline's going, but when you have time to control your breathing. So if you're stretching a hose line, something like that, it's a lot of work. However, if you're making a turn, up a staircase or something like that, you're in the landing, you're the guy feeding that hose, that's your time to relax, take a breather. And I also explained to the guys, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth when you can. Obviously, depending on the circumstance, you might be really huffing, but the in through your nose, out through your mouth, that's what's going to calm you down.
Absolutely.
And that's
More oxygen to the brain is always going to be a good thing.
right. And it also, something about breathing through your nose activates something in the brain. I don't remember what it is, but it's something
It should
that
always
like,
be
calms
in
you
through your
down.
nose and out through your mouth if
Yeah.
possible. Yes.
Yeah, which I guess is like
So-
doing meditation or whatever. But
Yeah. I mean, recently I saw somebody, social media, obviously, they were doing confidence playing pickleball, which, pickleball is like the new craze, and, it's actually a lot of fun. But, they set up a net right on the apparatus floor, and they're playing pickleball with their SCBA and gear
Yeah,
on it. I thought it was pretty
that's a
cool,
good one.
So But yes, anytime you could do a drill, and you should be wearing SCBA, at least on your back, whether it's a portable ladder drill, anything, put it on your back. The more you wear the face piece, the more comfortable you get with it, and the longer you're going to be able to last. The other thing is skip breathing and box breathing.
I'm familiar.
Works very well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Navy SEALs use box breathing.
yes, so it's a 4 count basically. You breathe in 4, hold it for 4, disperse it for 4, hold it for 4, inhale again. So it's 4, 4, 4, 4. The skip breathing is just you take a partial breath, hold it a second, and then you breathe all the way in. So it's and you hold it and then you let it out. That's like skip breathing. So but same idea. But anytime I I don't want to say I did get disoriented in a couple buildings at fires and stuff, and I've run out of air. I've come close to giving a mayday. So there are times where you get in situations, and if you can't think clearly, or you're about to give a mayday message, the best thing you could do is take a deep breath and clear your mind. So whether it's a full breath or skip breathing or box breathing or whatever, but you start screaming into your SCBA face piece, nobody's going to understand you.
That's what we said yesterday to the guys. Like if you did get trapped,
correct,
right there is your time to get your shit together, which is a hell of a thing to say, because when you're trapped, you're gonna
panic.
Yeah,
you're gonna panic.
So that's where the box breathing comes in. So from what I read, or I heard it on a podcast maybe, but the Navy SEALs, like before they're going into an operation, like right when they're about to get there,
they relax.
That's when they're doing the box breathing, because
it relaxes them.
Right. Yeah. And you're on the helicopter.
Correct.
About to jump in. The box breathing is what gets your mind right. So when you're in that situation where you're trapped,
breathing gets your mind right.
Yeah. But I'm saying like just like box breathing in general, like that's what's really, really going to calm you down if you get into a real shit situation.
It helps me sleep. If I can't fall asleep, I'll do box breathing.
Yeah.
I'll just lay there and I'll do some box breathing for a few minutes, and it usually relaxes me and it helps me sleep. Because what happens is you're concentrating on the breathing instead of thinking.
Say that, yeah. And you're thinking of each 4 seconds.
Correct. Instead of thinking of other things. So like your mind sometimes when you go to bed, what does it do? It scrambles. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. I forgot to do this. You got a million things going through your head, and you got to relax yourself. So like when I was talking about reading like an operator's manual to a meter, it gets your mind off of everything else, and you're reading something that is going to put you to sleep a little bit, and you're learning at the same time. It actually works, and you pick up a lot of information.
Do you try to flip to like section in a different language and then compare back and forth to try and like learn so you can recite it?
The other good one to read is the white section of the ERG.
Yeah, I was going to say the ERG.
The ERG white section, there is a tremendous amount of information in it that nobody ever looks at. We're going back to hazmat again, but it's another good area to just sit there and read. Read the white section when you get a chance. It'll help you sleep.
Yeah, I'll do it tonight.
And you'll find a lot of information. You'll be like, wow, that's where that came from.
Yeah, or you could look it up on the phone.
But box breathing and all that. So I had a situation where when I was a young firefighter, private dwelling fire, big, huge private dwelling. We went up to the attic area, which was converted. And me and my partner, we split up. Usually, in private dwellings, a lot of times you could split up across the hall into different rooms and stuff. You're still usually within voice range or, close enough that you're still operating as a buddy, but, you're in different rooms. So we split up a little bit. The room I was in went into another room. It was like a little bigger than I thought. And some stuff fell down and stuff. And I wound up, my vibrator alert started going off. And I had trouble finding my way back to the stairs. And I got a little nervous, young firefighter. I not to say that I was panicking, but I was getting to the point where I was, oh my God, like I might have to give a mayday here. I don't know where I am, so.
This was New York City or?
Yeah. So I got a little nervous, and, finally I just like, there's got to be somebody the other guy's got to be close by or somebody else. There's people up here. And I could hear people. So I'm like, I yell out again. Nobody answers. So finally, and you shouldn't do it, but I pulled my face piece off a little. I just clicked
Uh-oh.
it, and I just yelled out, I'm like, "Oh, is anybody there?" And I put it right back on, and I let the thing clear, and guy hears me, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm over here." He goes, I go, "Where are you?" You know, and he can hear my verbal alert. He goes, "Come this way." You know, he taps the floor. I go that direction. You know, and there you go. There's the stairs, and then the other guy was across the hall. Like, you know, so I was like, "All right, cool." So he's like, "What company are you from?" I wouldn't tell him my company. I gave him a false company because I didn't want to embarrass myself.
That's
you know.
solo.
But I'm like,
Yeah, right.
yeah. So now, you know, I got to the stairs, you know, and everything was fine. But, you know, but it took a second. But the first thing I did when I started realizing like my mind was scrambling and I was getting a little panicky is I closed my eyes. I stopped for a second. I just took a deep breath and I just held it. And then I did it again. And it like cleared my mind that I could think because now I'm thinking of my training. My mind was getting back to where, and like I said, we always fall back to our training. You know, we don't rise to occasions. We fall back to our training. And all of a sudden, everything became clear again. And I'm like, yeah, this guy close to me. And I yelled out, and the guy answered me. And I found my way back. So, you know, like skip breathing and box breathing and stuff like that, or deep breath, it will help clear your mind again where you think, and you'll come back to your training level.
Right.
And you find your way out. So, you know, I learned from that, and I'm like, I won't do that again. You know, like I thought, you know, like I say, every time we do things or make a mistake or whatever, we try to learn from that episode and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
But that's where I got more into reading about box breathing, skip breathing, stuff like that, was after that event.
Gotcha. Yeah, it definitely works. Phil, you want to pull up the Firestore, Ed?
Firestore.
Firestore. Let me bring up. In the world of firefighting and public safety, reliability is key. That's why for over 2 decades, first responders nationwide have trusted the Firestore as their go-to source for top-tier equipment, apparel, and accessories. Featuring industry-leading brands like MSA Cairns for helmets, Streamlight for dependable flashlights, and Seek for cutting-edge thermal imaging cameras, the Firestore equips you with the best tools to tackle any challenge. But it doesn't stop there. From EMS supplies to flame-resistant apparel and high-visibility gear, the Firestore has everything you need to stay safe and prepared on the job. Partnered with the most trusted names in the industry, the Firestore is committed to providing quality and innovation because when lives are on the line, there's no room for compromise. Join the thousands of first responders who rely on the Firestore. Visit thefirestore.com, your reliable partner for fire and public safety equipment.
I actually recently went on the Firestore. They have a ton of products.
Oh, they do?
Like, an insane amount.
Oh, they have
products.
everything.
It's crazy. So
Anything you need, they have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All accessories, like any of those like little battery cutters with the freaking spanner on the edge, with the gas on the other one, any of those tools. I wouldn't. I wonder if multi-purpose webbing's on there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they don't call it the Firestore for nothing, you know? So next thing, some general topics. Kevin, I know you mentioned response and then training and education. Anything in particular that you have for each of those?
There's always stuff to talk about.
Oh, I know
we could talk all day about training and
Yeah.
you know, and response. You know, but response is paramount. You know, that's really, in the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're here to respond to fires, emergencies, and our community needs as best as possible. Obviously, we can't do everything, but, you know, what they need is what we have to provide to them. It's not about us, it's about them. We exist because of our communities, the taxpayers. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a fire department.
I have to say, too, just to cut you off, those fires that we were talking about before, the ones from today and yesterday, I mean, talk about a solid job by those departments getting out, because some of them were during the day, and even the mutual aid departments or the automatic aid departments that came out, because there was quite a few of them. So, you know, shout out to those guys for getting out there
Absolutely.
on time, helping each other out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but, you know, when we really look at it, what is the response time? You know, we talked a little bit about this previously. You know, who's on our rigs? How many members? What is the actual time frame? You know, you look at some of these departments and you say, yeah, we did a good job. We did turn out. We did get there eventually and stuff like that. But are we meeting the standards that have been set forward. So, some of these departments, they 10 minutes, 11 minutes to get on scene. Some are less, So what's the time factor? And when you actually look at a fire, how did we get the alarm? How long did it take for us to get that alarm? Then, like we talked about the reflex time. How long does it take for you to get it activated from your, or from county to your dispatcher, the dispatch to put it out?
That's a big gap.
It could be a gap, or if you got it direct, did it come in as an automatic alarm first? And did people turn out for the automatic alarm? Or did the chief get on scene and then realize it's a fire? There's so many different factors. But when we're not in the firehouse and we're not turning out right away, what is the actual response?
Well, this is what I think is good about some of these, like with technology, for instance. So you have I don't know if you have the county text page before you get dispatched?
Sometimes.
Used to.
Yeah,
I used to get them.
I used to get them.
I don't know if I might not receive them anymore.
Yeah, so I remember one time hanging out at the firehouse. We were listening to the PD radio went off. I want to say it was for a drowning at one of the beaches. And I wrote it into a group chat so-and-so is getting a drowning at this beach. And then I didn't hear anything. And I'm like, did I just put some false information in there?
Yep.
And I was like, whatever. Sat down, and it was, I want to say 5 minutes before that fire department got toned out for it.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, that's a big gap. But now with the technology, the phones and everything like that, you mentioned Pulse Point before, double tap on Pulse Point gets everyone freaked the fuck out. This is legit. We're going.
All the buff chats go off.
Yeah,
Pulse Point double tap. You're going to work.
Right. But I mean, even just the group chats in general, you have the dispatchers that are working that are always throwing something. Hey, PD's going out with a report of a fire.
Right.
Blah blah blah. Guys are already heading down to the firehouse. So I think honestly, in the past, probably 10 years or so, that type of thing may have started closing that gap a tiny bit.
It's helped, and every little bit helps. Like we said, there's good and bad to both sides of it. Getting back to fire districts or companies or whatever, and all this other authority having jurisdictions, people having their own dispatchers. Everybody's got a different radio frequency, and nobody can communicate. We advance ourselves so far, and then we're so far backwards. We've had, even in my department, I pushed for us to get all the frequencies of our neighboring departments so that we could switch over and operate on their frequency. And then, you get the next chief comes in and he's like, oh, we're not doing that. We're staying on our frequency. And now we're not communicating again. So if somebody's saying that the building's collapsing or something's really going wrong, I want to hear it right away. I don't want it to have to go to my chief or somebody else to get dispatched back to me to hear what's going on. And the same thing goes on with these alarms. You call 911. 911, police usually going to pick it up, answer it, take in all the information, transfer it to fire. Fire's going to take the information, then they're going to transfer that to your dispatcher. There's a big gap there.
How many rings deep is that call?
Yeah, it could take a while before you're even getting the alarm. And then, did they see the fire when it first started? This is a neighbor passerby or across the street. Oh, I see flames in the window. How long's that thing been burning before that person saw it?
Or was it the Netflix 4K fireplace?
Yeah. So, there's so many different there's so many different factors that go into this stuff. And then on top of that, we're going to respond from home. So now, I get activated. I got to get in my car. I got to drive down to the firehouse. Maybe I got to wait for a couple of people. It takes 5 minutes to get on the road, another 5-10 minutes to get there. So now we're 20 minutes into alarm, 25 minutes into alarm. And I'm not saying it's going to be better. In some places it is better. Some places it's not. But even New York City, I would listen to the scanner on my rig and in my office because I'd pick up fires faster that way because the police would get it sometimes first.
You know how you know?
And they dispatch them immediately.
Why
do you get there and there's 6 police cars blocking all the hydrants?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, you know how you know it's a working fire? If PD says it's nothing.
Yeah.
And
but then you get cops saying it's a job and it's a garbage can.
That's what I'm saying. Like you're going, you think you get the double tap on Pulse Point, throw on the PD scanner. They get there, it's nothing going on. You're going to a rip roaring job.
Yeah, they turn.
Yeah, or if they say it's fully involved, it's a candle in the window.
Yeah,
something like that. Those guys get all
but it goes back and forth, and you're right. I mean, sometimes you'll hear stuff. No, I know we're joking around a little bit as we're going here, but you're right. Sometimes you hear something come over PD or somewhere else, and it takes minutes before anything
Yeah.
comes in. And I'll give you an example. Even in New York City, same thing. I listen to things, and you hear them say 59 for a fire, and I'm like, get on a rig, let's go. This is gonna probably be a job. We take it in. That's their code for fire in the city. But one day after dinner, I went up to the office, and I get on the computer, and I'm listening to the radio, and I hear them calling the precinct. Is there a 102 unit available? We have a male impaled on a fence. It was 2 blocks from my firehouse. So I'm listening to it. I'm like, they just say an impalement, So I ran downstairs, and the guys were cleaning up, and I'm like, yo, get on a rig. Let's go. There's an impalement around the corner, So we get on a rig, drive around the corner. Now I'm like, for sure, we're going to get this run. Never get the run. They're waving us in. We pull up. There's a guy hanging on a fence. So I get off, and I walk up, and I'm like, I tell my chauffeur, I'm like, Richie, I said,
Ask the guy if he's okay.
no, I said, I spoke, talked to him, but I said, call Queens and tell him, we got to confirm male impaled on a fence. And he gives it, and they're like, you have what? And I'm like, we have a male impaled on a
Oh,
fence.
so they never got it.
They never got it. They never got it. I mean, it had to be a few minutes. I mean, obviously, it's only a couple minutes from the firehouse, and we turn out really quick. But it had to be a couple minutes, and we still hadn't got the run.
Yeah, that's
We
crazy.
called it in. Meanwhile, PD had it. So, we get back to communication failures. And there's so many failures, like I said, whether it's internal, external, or whatever, but even dispatching, how quickly are we turning out? Quickest response will be people in the firehouse that can get on the rig quickly and turn out. And especially now, like into the winter, slower response.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the ice, the leaves, the rain, whatever the situation is, it's going to slow us down. And like we were talking before we even started this tonight, we were responding to that run yesterday, and I'm driving the tower ladder on one. It's a busier road, but I felt it was a little slick, and I had to slow down even more because of it. And that is dry conditions. Obviously, we can go a little faster, but I had to slow down because I felt God forbid, I don't want to get into an accident. And that's one of those things when we talk about response is we have to get there.
Yep.
It's so important. We don't want to wrap up the rig. We don't want to get people injured. And it's very dangerous whether you're in your personal POV going to the firehouse or to the scene, or whether you're on a rig. Response is a major factor. And a lot of firefighters get hurt, killed on rigs responding because they go a little over the top or they do something dangerous and they get into a bad accident, roll over, or wreck a rig. So we have to be cognizant of that fact. So speed is a concern, response is a concern, safety is a concern, but the quickest response will be people in the firehouse.
Question for both of you. I have found that a lot of the times, it's just saying response. So there's the from home to the station, and then there's from the station to the scene. I have been at the firehouse so many times, and a lot of the jobs I've been to, I was there already. How many has that happened to you guys? That's happened to me numerous times.
Sometimes,
after drill, after a meeting, you're just hanging out, and I think the majority of the firefighting I've done, mutual aids or in district, I've been there already.
So you're saying
Been at the firehouse, you're saying.
At the firehouse.
That's because Tyler, he doesn't turn out. He's got to, when the thing goes off, you have to turn out.
Yeah.
You don't sit at home and go, I'll miss that one.
It's just I don't know. It's just a funny coincidence that I have found back in 2017, 2018, we were going to Central Islip a lot. And every single time, me, Matt, a couple guys, we were just at the firehouse. And
it happens.
Got lucky every time. I mean,
like I said, when I was a young guy, I mean, we used to hang out in the firehouse all the time. So we caught everything.
Yeah.
But even doing these duty crews in-house, this is, I think, probably my 4th time I went to a fire, maybe even the 5th time that I was on a duty crew and went to a job.
Yeah.
Whether it was in our district or out of our district or even mutual aid standby. We went to Wisconsin one night we took our engine in Wisconsin. So, I mean, being in the firehouse is great. You get on a rig and you go.
Yeah. I've found I work remote, or I have worked remote for a couple of years now. I'll work from the firehouse. I'll sit in the truck company office. I just sit there and nothing happens all day.
Well, I was just going to say that there's been a few times where I would text you and I'm like, yo, did you make that job? And you're like, yeah, I'm on the rig now. Or you send me a picture.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I took
Buff.
advantage of.
Buff.
Yeah. Oh, just buffing. Yeah. I
Wait,
just
call
took
me a buff?
advantage. I took advantage of. I've been able to work remote, and it's actually tough though because there's been a lot of times where like I'm sitting on my computer and I've pushed meetings off. Like it'd be like 1:45. I got a 2:00 meeting and I see a fire in Central Islip, and I'm like, ah.
I'm going.
If it's a fire, you're going for it.
I look at my team schedule.
I got a bad Wi-Fi connection.
yeah, yeah.
Just
I go,
disconnected.
how important is this meeting? Who do I need to email right now? Can I push this another hour out? And then
Yeah,
I go,
hey,
I go based on the call. I'm like, oh, it's on Suffolk Avenue. It's a gas station with a mechanic shop attached to it. I'm like, I don't know how long is this gonna
Yeah,
take?
hey, I got diarrhea. Can't make the
Yeah,
can't make the meeting.
Nobody
Make up
wants
some
to.
excuse.
I'd love to say nobody wants to miss a fire, but there are probably, we were discussing this the other night. One of the guys in my firehouse, he goes, I'd like to look to see how many people avoid going to working fires.
No.
I mean, I know I'm not that guy, and I know
think
he's
that's
not that
crazy.
guy.
I
Like,
bet
if it
I
sounds
bet-
like it's something, I'm going. Like, I'm not.
There's
Yeah.
been times where I've missed a fire, and even the Firewire admins, the Long Island guys will break my chops. Hey, did you make that one? And I'm like pacing back and forth in my living room, freaking the fuck out. It's like this is the second one I missed. And my fiance's sitting there like, you're not gonna make it anyway. Like you're
Oh,
too
I'm gonna
far.
make it.
Yeah, I mean that drives me nuts.
Listen,
I
you two
couldn't-
last night, I got back to the rig at the fire, and I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm looking at the thing, and you guys are texting me. I hope you made that job.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and
Yeah,
I'm
well,
like,
'cause
I'm
you were-
here.
Yeah, we were
I'm like, I'm
talking-
just leaving.
It's
Yeah.
so easy to say when you're just like it's his district, he's over there, and we're like, oh, did you make it? Did you make it? Are
Yeah.
you going?
I hate when I miss fires.
it's
Hey,
annoying. yeah.
this one was
But
a
it
double tap on
happens.
Pulse Point.
Yeah,
You make
Pulse
it?
Point double
Yeah.
tap. Are you on the way, man? Are you sitting?
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny stuff though. But response is key. And it's very dangerous. Whether you're responding or returning or even operating on the scene, like you're talking about blocking the highway, stuff like that. Firefighters get hit, struck, or apparatus gets hit. There was one just recently I saw. It was on the police dash cam where the box truck hit the engine on the highway. Did you see that? It was another state, but slammed it hard, and the
I
rig
did
went
see that.
flying.
Yep,
Yeah,
I did
so
see that.
it happens a lot. And now there's departments that are buying blocker rigs that they take on the highway with them.
Kind of like,
know.
Isn't the DOT have them?
Yeah,
They
like
got
the blocker
They
trucks.
look like
Yep.
accordions on the back
Yep.
of
So
them.
some people were taking old fire trucks and converting them. And they it's like
Fill the tank with
the
sand.
engine's 5, so it's blocker 5, whatever, and they take both rigs. One guy drives the blocker rig out there and puts it on the road because you think about it. We want the biggest apparatus or something to block and keep us safe. But now you look at these rigs. $1 million for an engine, $2.5 million for a tower ladder, right? And God forbid that thing gets hurt, damaged, broken, whatever. If it saves firefighter lives, that's great. I can appreciate that. But on the other side of that, to get a new rig now and you order one, you're looking at 36 to 39 months. 3 years to get a new rig. So if your tower ladder goes out, can you get another one?
It's like having an expensive paperweight.
It's a real expensive paperweight.
Just like having an
And
expensive paperweight
look
on a
at
desk.
Palm Beach, that truck getting hit by the train, and thankful they're all gonna be okay. That's the number one thing, when you look at it. But the apparatus is ruined. You lost your members. You got the train that's destroyed. You got people on the train that were hurt. Who knows if the tracks and everything else was damaged or whatever down the line. And, I'm not saying fault, guilt, whatever.
It's
Listen,
just a major ordeal.
it happened.
Yeah.
But look at all the cause and effects.
Yep.
The insurance, the replacement of apparatus, injuries and medical, or maybe even, these people getting injured and they can never come back to work that we have to replace these people. Like, you can look at almost any incident or accident down the line and say, wow, look at all the damage this has caused. Not just to rigs or people or anything, but everything in
the
general.
butterfly effect.
It's a butterfly. Millions of dollars. Millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Well, the insurance company's got to get their cut. Come on.
Yeah, but then what's going to happen to the rates?
No.
Everybody likes to say, and, I do some consulting work for insurance. And, everybody likes to say, well, we have insurance and it's fine and it'll be covered, or this is not a big deal. It is a big deal. There are departments out there that are starting to be uninsurable. or they're paying outrageous rates to try to have insurance. And it might be cookie cutter insurance. You should never say, I have insurance. If you really look at it, a fire department is an insurance policy to saving homes or saving people's lives. But we don't look at it that way. So you don't want to just say, oh, well, we have insurance or insurance will cover it or whatever else, because insurance rates will just continue to climb till it's out of control and you can't afford it anymore.
Then what happens to the insurance companies?
Well, some fold up, and that's the problem. If it gets to the point where they can't, stabilize or make money or pay out, people like, oh, well, the insurance company made this much money on us. Yeah, but they had to pay out millions of dollars of claims to other people. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, no.
But we can never just say, oh, well, we have insurance. The most important thing is we keep firefighters safe. We don't want people getting hurt.
Absolutely.
You sent us some pictures, and I'm trying to pull up the ones from Houston today. Do you know what went on there?
Oh, don't post those.
Don't?
Yeah,
Alright,
don't post those.
I'm just looking at them on
Yeah.
the screen. But yeah, it looks like something.
Don't post those.
Serious job in Houston, Texas?
Yeah. So, I believe they were searching or something, and a door was closed, and they couldn't get out, and some firefighters got hurt and burned.
Oh,
But yeah, don't.
What was the
Google it.
deal with the door?
I don't know all the factors. That's why I don't
okay.
want to talk about it. I don't want to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna-
was just
that's-
kind
yeah, I
of
was
showing
gonna
you
say.
guys, just so you had an understanding. Things happen every day. There are fires across this country. People get caught up and stuff like that. And these are good, aggressive, busy companies. And things do go wrong. You can do everything right and get killed being a firefighter.
Right. Yeah.
You could be as safe as possible. I say this all the time. Training education is the most important thing we do. There's no doubt about it. We fall back to that training level all the time, so we have to be trained as high as we can. But we want to keep ourselves as safe as possible. And you could do everything right and still get hurt and killed, no matter how you look at it.
Right.
You never know what's going to happen. You never know what you're going to be faced with. Think about it. We go to a fire, we look at a building for 10 to 15 seconds, and we go running through the front door into the unknown. The building I had yesterday, like I said, that normally you would say, it's a regular private dwelling, no big deal. Yeah, it's big. And you go inside, it's all cut up. It's this, you can't get from one side to the other. Normally you're following your path of egress to try to get to the rear door or window or something like that. You might not be able to do that, And we look back on Black Sunday, and we're coming up on the 20th anniversary, January 23rd. Joey DiBernardo, my best friend, was one of the firefighters that had to jump out the window. But we lost Curtis Myron. We lost John Ballou. All these other firefighters got injured jumping out of, it's basically a 4-story building, but it's 5 stories in the rear that they had to jump out the window. And they didn't have bailout ropes, So you look at this fire and you say, well, why? We had some highly experienced and trained firefighters that got caught. And they did as much as they could with their training level to try to get themselves out of there safely. But there were a multitude of factors, and I'd like to go into some things down the line of looking at CDC NIOSH reports and repeating some of the same types of problems and injuries over time. But you look at that fire, it was converted inside. There was a wall put up that you couldn't make it to the fire escape. So the normal things that you're normally considering in an apartment building, they couldn't get to that fire escape that they needed. And then on top of that, they didn't have bailout ropes. So we've created the Joe E.D. Foundation, which we run a seminar in November on Long Island. We have one coming up in February down in Houston, Texas. But we help and give out grants for bailout systems to firefighters in need and departments that can't afford them. So, in 10 years' time, we gave out over $1 million. We're well over $1 million now in grants that we've given out. But it's so important. And you look at these firefighters like Joey DiBernardo, and he's one that kind of pushed me to become a New York City fireman. I met him in the valleys, and we did everything together. We buffed fires all the time and went to fires in the valleys, buffed neighboring fires in adjoining districts and everything else. We loved the fire department, and he pushed me towards becoming an FDNY firefighter, which was great. But Joey was an encyclopedia. He was super smart. He understood the job. He knew everything about the job, the books. He knew every type of building in New York City. And this guy got hurt and eventually died from his injuries. And you look at the other guys, Curtis Myron, John Ballou, busy companies in the Bronx, and they still got killed. Jeff Kuhl, I worked with Jeff in the Bronx when I was in 50 Engine. He was in 19 Truck. Went out to Rescue 3. Another guy jumped out the window. He's off the job now because of that fire. So we look at things and we can have the highest training levels and still get ourselves into problems and get hurt and killed because of alterations in buildings and stuff like that. So we have to be cognizant, but we're always going to fall back to our training level and do the best we can to survive or save people's lives.
Right.
So training and education is one of the most important things, and you should never push it off. You should always be reading and trying to stay up to date, and there's so many different things out there that you can do to try to bring your training level up. Don't just look at your department and say, oh, I got a quota of 12 trainings a year, and that's all I'm going to do. You should be doing up and above. You should be a firefighter every day. You should continually try to learn.
Right. And we'll put the Joey D seminar stuff up on our social media platforms.
Yeah, it'd be great.
All our followers could see
Share
that.
the links and then
so
Spotify.
you could go to joeydfoundation.org, or you can go for the Texas seminar coming up. It's February 21st to 23rd down in Houston, Texas. And we also have a secondary website for that called joeyd-texas.tx.com, joeyd-tech-tx.com. But you can register there. We have a lot of great programs, got a lot of great instructors from across the country coming, and learn. You know, it's okay to spend a couple dollars of your own money to make yourself better.
Right.
All right. Jeff Cool credits himself with buying at a buff show a piece of webbing that him and Joey used to get themselves out of that window, and they're both alive probably because of that piece of webbing that Jeff spent his own money on.
Right.
So, you know, going and taking a training, and you know, I always say go out, get outside your zip code, learn things from different people. But you know, these tons of conferences. I mean, you could go to FDIC and Firehouse Expo and all this other stuff that's out there, bigger stuff. But the fools, all these little conferences like the Joey D seminar and stuff, they're all good training opportunities. Look for something you like, go out there, spend a couple dollars, and go learn something.
Perfect.
Even if it's a one day or one night, $40 seminar, go pick up some information.
Right. So we'll put that on we'll put it in the description. Actually, in this video, we'll put it on the social media platforms. And again, just to reiterate, if you guys want to send us any questions, anything to review, anything like that, go to volleyhousepodcast.com. You can fill out the form in there or hit us up on social media, and we will see you guys next week.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Episode 2.
In the books.
Great.
Nice.
Good luck.